Pyongyang regularly conducts these types of missile drills, and Seoul doesn't seem too concerned over this latest round. Let's get more perspective on this with Raymond Tanter. He's a professor at Georgetown University. He's also an expert on national security and foreign policy. What do you make of it?
Well, look at the context in which these 4 missiles were launched. 14 months ago, what happened? December 2012, you had a multi-stage, long-range rocket launch, successful, and followed by, in February of last year, the nuclear test. And then came the drills, on top of which came North Korea's almost ferocious response with respect to rhetoric. North Korea threatened to launch preemptive nuclear strikes against both the United States and the South. It said that the armistice of 1953 was null and void, and it issued all kinds of other threats. So these 4 missiles landing are much of less consequence than last year when, in May of 2013, 6 short-range missiles were launched.
And so do you see this as basically it's a signal, we're not crazy about this, just like they weren't obviously very happy about this last year, or an attempt, which you've brought up in the past, to kind of gin things up, get international reaction, maybe get some food aid, that sort of thing? You talk about this vicious cycle that everyone seems to be in. Do you think that this is just another, I guess, another chapter in that that book, so to speak?
There's a lack of transparency between North and the South. The South is willing to talk, but the North thinks it best able to talk with missile launches. You know, if you can pick up the telephone, it's much easier among developed countries than launching missiles at one another.
We did see, though, the family reunions, very touching recently, and that we see as a good sign. Then we see this. How do you make sense out of it all?
Well, there's no inconsistency. The North likes to gin up crises in order to extract concessions. And you can have the family reunions going on simultaneously with ginning up the crisis. But the crisis is not being ginned up. No one's really reacting.
But can we look at the reunions and say, hey, maybe there's some groundwork that the 2 countries can come together and actually, could be a framework there, or is they're just too unpredictable?
Optimistic, Mike. It's a little too much.
You don't see it?
I don't see it. I see the history repeating itself, where next year Kim Jong-un might decide to gin it up a little more than he has this year, because no one seems to be reacting. But remember, last year, stealth bombers were used in the drills to simulate an attack on North Korea.
Which obviously provoked that reaction. So next chapter, if you were to write it, what's going to happen next?
Well, if I were to write the next chapter, I would look at the last year's chapter.
Yeah. It's a Groundhog's Day, I guess is how you describe it. Okay. Well, Raymond, always a delight to talk to you. Thanks so much for coming in.